finding a surprise, questioning the insights and an insecurity. And one of the insights I had was even that insights don't matter. And the moving into embracing my humanity opened a door. And then I landed in wanting to express in the world from the soul. And my question is it true that this is the journey towards embodiment?
Wanting to express from your soul?
Is this true, this whole, that all of the, like, that insights don't matter?
I see.
All of that, it's like all of this, awake, not awake, enlightened, not enlightened. It's like all of that it's like the skin has peeled off.
Right, that's no longer your orientation anymore.
Oh, no.
At all. Yeah. It no longer serves you, so you just sort of sloughed it off quite spontaneously. And it's very natural that it does happen. It's totally natural that it does happen. It's a perfectly good thing that it does happen, that a lot of those old motivations just, fall away. And of course it is part of, living from the soul. That's part of it as well, because it's, like I said, it's more of a, it's a journey of discovery. It's not this goal-oriented thing, which is often where we come from for a while, what we're trying to make happen and have insights and have awakenings and all this kind of stuff. And there are certain goals that we hope and things that we hope to happen. And then at another point, that's no longer the orientation. It doesn't serve us. It's not what we need, and it's not even true to your current state of the way you see things. It's not relevant anymore, that old way. And so, that's part of the maturing of the soul, because the soul isn't just a changeless pseudo-entity. The soul itself is something, like I said, it does have this quality of kind of like a muscle to it, that the more it's used, the more robust and usable it becomes.
Yes.
And again, I know I keep saying this, but I keep saying it because I've had so many conversations, not with you right now, but with other people they tend to think in such big terms. And it's so much better to shrink it all down. So we realize that no, this is about all the small moments of life. It's about big moments too, but that's not what it's fundamentally about.
And that's what I could see before I was concentrating on.
Yeah.
And then there's been such a relaxation in the body, and now that's falling away. The body naturally is in a relaxed state.
Of course. That's a heck of a burden to carry, isn't it? Yeah. All that sort of seeking and all that energy that comes along with it. That's, like I said, it can. We utilize that at some point along the way, but it sure is nice when it kind of falls away, isn't it?
Yes.
It's like, whew.
Oh gosh.
Like, don't have to run that spiritual marathon forever. And it is easy, not for you, but it's easy for some people to they just incorporate sometimes the idea of embodiment right into the seeking, and then they try to make it happen from that same sort of seeking standpoint, when really embodiment in its truer sense, it's not a goal-oriented activity, so it's not a seeking-generated activity. It's not an activity even that has a goal, because it doesn't have an endpoint. There's no such thing as the perfect manifestation of the enlightened vision. I mean, we have an endless human capacity to embody that. And so it's more, it can be challenging, of course, at times, but there's also kind of a wondrous joy to it at the same time, because there's no end, so we're relieved of trying to cross finish lines, and make final attainments and all that. It's such a burden to be.
And when the reactivity happens, that exercise that you gave,
yeah,
I had an opportunity to use it on something from work, and I went, oh, thank goodness for smartphones, right? That's on the website, and I had a point that I could pause, and I went, I'm going to go to that, and I had such a surprise because this thing had been stuck there for years, and I didn't know what it was and that it had frozen like that until I used your exercise, and boy, was I surprised what
wonderful.
Came out.
Yeah,
I was like, wow, and it really worked. And so it just seems like allowing oneself to really just look at all of that.
That's right.
Is so freeing, and to not judge myself like I had been so harshly also has allowed in the world not to be judging to others.
Isn't that are they totally linked together, aren't they?
Yes.
And I'm so glad you brought this up. I mentioned it, but I mentioned it kind of in passing, so I'm really glad you brought this up. And brought some emphasis to the fact that this isn't about trying to be perfect. It's not about trying to get it right all the time. It's not about judging when your me has a self-centered moment. It's about getting down on yourself, because all of that judgment, all of that critical evaluation that diminishes you actually is coming from the ego.
And that's what surprised me too.
Yeah, it is surprising, right? Because it's masquerading as the deeper truth, but it's actually not. Yes. Right? It's masquerading as something really helpful, but then later you realize, wow, that was actually a barrier I was constantly a veil I was constantly having to push aside to get anywhere. I was having to withhold my judgments and my condemnation of myself or others. Yeah, so I think that other part of the soul comes in so wonderfully useful, which is humility. And humility is that within us that can see our own weaknesses and our own faults, which everybody has, and is not surprised, is not overwhelmed by them. It can see them in total honesty, but it's not arrogant enough to be surprised by it. Because to be upset with yourself, to be angry at yourself about some characteristic that arose within your mind is actually to be arrogant. Is actually to not be able to believe that you still have that feeling or that. But why wouldn't you? Why would you? Why would we be surprised? We shouldn't be surprised. Humility is that which just kind of goes, yeah, okay, I can admit to that. Yeah, I felt that way, or I did that, or I had that impulse, or yeah, okay, I did. But it's okay. And then the inquiry, and you're just seeing it and letting it unfold, can just keep going. As soon as we condemn something, everything stops. Same like if either one of us were go to somebody else, if the first thing we told them was a judgment we had of them, then after we tell them our judgment of them, our condemnation, at that point, they're not listening anymore, are they?
No.
They might be shaking their head, but they are not listening anymore. And when we take that same attitude into ourselves, we are not listening anymore inside. Something shuts off. And so that's that quality, that strange combination of clarity, a moral clarity that comes from soul, but clarity and honesty and truthfulness without the sort of overwhelming burden of being overly judgmental about what we see. Because the overly judgmental part is not humility. It's arrogance. It's arrogant to just stand in judgment of someone, of yourself. That doesn't mean we all make judgments at times. We all have to make discernments. That's part of life. But judgmentalism is something different. So, yeah, I think that's a really important thing that you brought up, to be able to see things without the judgment, and that's what the humility allows you to do. Because then you're not surprised by it, you're not horrified by it, you know? It's easier to move past something that you're not obsessed with, you know? And I mean not even negatively obsessed. Then it's much easier to move past it or heal it if it's just simply a phenomena inside yourself that you're experiencing. Just a phenomena. It's not right, it's not wrong, it's just a phenomena. When it's just a phenomena, it's much easier to be with.
Yes, I can see that is.
Yeah.
Yes.
And when we don't have to hold ourselves to an image within our own minds, then we can have enough humility just to see whatever we see about ourselves at the moment without it being a problem to see it. If it's wonderful, we see it without taking ownership. You know, if it's difficult or negative or self-centered, we see it without recoiling and denying it. You know, so all this kind of helps us just kind of come into that simple alignment. And, you know, often the simple alignment starts as just a feeling of peace and quietness. And then, okay, what does peace and quietness look like when I'm having a discussion? How does peace and quiet have a discussion? You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Because we can't just sit there and say nothing forever. Well, most of us aren't going to do that.
Yes.
You know, then you see how it's open-ended then. See, then embodiment doesn't have an image that you're trying to conform to. It's open-ended in the sense that you're left in yourself, in your own state of discovering, and in your own sort of groping around in the darkness of your being for that which I'm calling soul tonight. That's what it then is about. And there's a simplicity and a beauty to that.
So that exercise, that seemed like that's what that was all about, is taking one through really just being with all of it but not attaching to it.
Yes, that's right.
Yes. And it did it in such a beautiful way. So thank you for that exercise too.
I'm glad it worked. Really, the exercises are just taking the perspective of the soul's perspective on, you know, different things that can arise. Okay, what's its perspective and how does it work with them? How does it deal with them? That's all those exercises. And I think I recorded, I don't even know, 14 or 16 of them. But they're all just how the soul interacts with our humanity. That's all it is. That's all they are, is how the soul interacts with our humanness. Because if we don't know that, if we haven't had like clear models about what that is, then we're often left with, you know, we're approaching our ego from our ego, and that never really works out very well.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm really glad that exercise helped.